our journey here. Ready? We're gonna play harmonium. So, before we begin, we are going to chant a Mangala Charana. Don't worry, Abhiram. I know you're already addicted to the screens because you see mommy and dad use them. But that's not the ideal situation. So we have Abhiram joining us today for the class and bhajans every day. Let's hope he joins for the bhajans at least, so he can start getting a lot of benefit, and then his mom could get a rest and can actually shower and do things she wants to do in the morning. But without further ado, before we get into the subject matter, it's proper to offer our obeisances unto the lineage of spiritual masters and spiritual personalities who are, guiding us along the way. Without their mercy, we would make it nowhere in spiritual life. So, Matic or Pai? Where's Sampat? He left? Where's Sampat? Slacking.
He did chant though.
What?
He did chant around though before he left.
He did chant around. That's good. Okay.
Om Jnana Jnananjana Shalakaya Shakshur Militang Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitang Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Didati Swapadantikam Aleham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamayam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sarvetam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Namostute Kapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakalpatubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasatya Deshatarine. Very good. It was my wife and I's intentions to keep Abhiram away from the screens, but we have to use the screens, or we probably use them more than we have to or should. But he's been looking at them. So now our new strategy is to let him see the screens, but hopefully let him see it when we do good things like reading Srimad Bhagavatam on the screens, because he's going to see screens. But maybe better when he doesn't too much get exposed. But also if he does get exposed, let him see the Srimad Bhagavatam on the screens. So anyhow, we have been talking about this proper duties for a Kshatriya or a spiritual warrior. It's going to continue on at least for 2 more verses like that today. What's the ideal character, the ideal warrior? And ultimately the ideal warrior, they protect the innocent. That's what a warrior does in society. That's what a police force is supposed to do. I mean, nowadays it's not always the case. It's more to serve the government masters who are paying them. But, that's Kali Yuga. But that's the ideal warrior. He protects the innocent. So, and not just protects the innocent when it benefits them, which tends to be more the case in Kali Yuga. For everyone, we tend to do things that only what we think is going to benefit us, but it actually doesn't benefit us. We think, yes, I'm going to act in such a way
that my interests are first. But actually, if we understand the Lord's system, then that'll actually act in such a way that our interests will come last, because we won't make any real profit, spiritual profit that way. And anyway, this is very difficult to overcome, this selfish nature. But anyhow, by reading Bhagavatam, these things can gradually be understood more and more. And also interesting, Abhiram joined us for his first formal temple program morning regularly now. And he consecrated it by spitting up all over the floor. So thank you, Parth, for cleaning that up. I didn't know what happened. I was like, that's warm. Did he pee on me? And next thing I know, he's spit up everywhere. I'm like, oh, God. But anyway, we'll give this a try and see if his mother comes and rescues him at some point. Anaga sviha bhuteshu ya agas krinniran kushaha ahartasmi bhujam sakshat amartyasyapi sangadam anagasu iha to the offenseless, bhuteshu, living beings, yaha, the person, agakrit, commits offense, nirankusha, upstart, aharta, asmi, I shall bring forth, bhujam, arms, sakshat, directly, amartyasyapi, even one who is a demigod, saangadam, with decorations and armor. Just to, you guys can see, right? Just to look up the word upstart. I think it's someone who starts like trouble, like kind of goes against the government or something like this. So we'll just confirm. Right, Abhiram? Upstart meaning is a person who has risen suddenly to wealth or high position, especially one who behaves arrogantly. That's one. Okay. So a person who's risen suddenly to a high position and behaves arrogantly. So that was, I guess, because Kali's in the dress of a king. So he's now in the king's dress, and now he's behaving very arrogantly. He's beating the cow and the bull and causing problems for the age. So an upstart living being who commits offenses by torturing those who are offenseless shall be directly uprooted by me, even though he be a denizen of heaven with armor and decorations. So Emperor Parikshit is saying it doesn't matter even if you are a demigod, if you commit offenses by torturing those who are offenseless, you'll directly be challenged and uprooted by me. That was his conviction. And actually, even so, in our devotional spaces, if there's somebody who's committing offenses to offenseless beings, it's like the number one thing for Vaishnavas we don't tolerate is offenses to others, offenses to other devotees, So ourselves, if someone offends us, we can tolerate anything, actually. But if somebody, offends offenseless living beings, then we should not be very happy at all. So anyway, Emperor Parikshit, he had so much capacity because he was the king of the world, he would never allow such a thing. So that's probably not good that you chew on that. So anyhow, the denizens of the heavenly kingdom are called amara, or deathless, due to their possessing a long span of life, far greater than that of the human beings. For a human being who has only a maximum 100-year duration of life, a span of life spreading over millions of years is certainly considered to be deathless. For example, from the Bhagavad Gita, we learn that on the Brahmaloka planet, the duration of one day is calculated to be 4.3 million times 1,000, so 4.3 billion solar years. Similarly, in other heavenly planets, one day is calculated to be 6 months of this planet, and the inhabitants get a life of 10 million of their years. Therefore, in all higher planets, since the span of life is far greater than that of the human being, the denizens are called deathless by imagination, although actually no one within the material universe is deathless. Our modern scientists have began to understand this, how, there's a movie that depicts it. You've heard of the movie Interstellar? But basically, they leave the planet, and what ends up happening is time moves much quicker here than it does outside of the planet. So the whole concept of the movie is he left the planet, but they spent too long out there, and when they got back, his like daughter was like a grandmother, and then and things like this. So I didn't watch the whole movie, so I don't know. But I know the concept is being floated around. But this was understood in the Vedas since antiquity. It's the oldest, system on the planet. But it's amazing how this was understood, and just now, our modern scientists are beginning to understand this. But anyhow, Bidiji Prabhupada is explaining how the denizens of heaven, they're deathless, it seems, to us because they live so much longer than us. So we actually also have to understand if we do make contact, and we do make contact with extraterrestrial or otherworldly beings, those beings are far superior to us in lifespan and technology, all these things. Anyway, that's all talked about also in the Bhagavatam. Thousands of years ago it was talked about. Maharaj Parikshit challenges even such denizens of heaven if they torture the offenseless. This means that the state executive head must be as strong as Maharaj Parikshit, so that he may be determined to punish the strongest offenders. It should be the principle of a state executive head that the offender of the codes of God is always punished. And also notice that Maharaj Parikshit is ready to personally punish. A king used to, even Dhritarashtra, who was an old king, when it came down to it, to protect Bhima, because even Bhima, the strongest warrior on the planet, would have been crushed by Dhritarashtra at the end of the Mahabharata when he was going to embrace him but actually kill him secretly. So Krishna because he was blind, tricked him into hugging an iron Bhima, but he got so angry because Bhima killed all his sons that he smashed the iron into powder. So this is actually the quality of a proper king. Like, I can't imagine Donald Trump would fare very well in a fight. So, and nor would Modi or any of these. These people are really not qualified to, rule. The only one who might be, this will be very controversial, but he's known for having, typing, fighting abilities and things like this is this Vladimir Putin. Apparently wrestling bears or something they do, and I don't know if he actually does these things. But he's apparently, a strong military personality. But actually that's said to be the quality of someone who's really qualified to rule. And then that being said, those people should listen to the Brahminical people, the intelligent class of men who are understood in the codes of God, the Brahmins. Definitely not happening in this age. But, that's why we have problems. So anyway, an ideal warrior is always ready to punish the offenders. Why? Because they have to protect those they're offending, the innocent. So let's keep reading. Ragyo hi paramo dharma swadharma stanupalanam shasato nyanyata shastram anapadyutpathaniha. Ragya, of the king or the executive head. He, certainly, parama, supreme, dharma, occupational duty, swadharmastha, one who is faithful to his prescribed duty, anupalanam, giving protection always, shasata, while ruling, anyan, others, yatha, according to, shastram, rulings of the scriptures, anapadi, without danger, utpathan, persons going astray, iha, as a matter of fact. The supreme duty of the ruling king is to give all protection to law-abiding persons, and to chastise those who stray from the ordinances of the scriptures in ordinary times, when there is no emergency. So that's also, there may be times, so like for instance, in the scriptures, one should not eat meat for no reason. There should be some bona fide sacrifice or something like that. But in an emergency time, for survival, actually even a devotee can eat meat. Even Prabhupada, there was a devotee who wanted to go to Russia and preach, but there wasn't good supply of vegetarian food in Russia because it's so cold and things like this. And he's like, I can't go there. All they have are like potatoes and things. And he's like, so then eat meat and preach. And so Prabhupada even found it was more valuable to go and serve the Krishna consciousness mission and eat meat, which is against the Shastras, than it was to avoid the service altogether. So in an emergency, you can actually, there are certain codes that you can break. But a strong warrior, executive head, is trying to uphold the codes of God. That's, we follow a constitution here in the United States, the Constitution of the United States, but they've made so many amendments to the Constitution. Why? Because it's imperfect and they have to amend it because it's made by finite mortal men. So, it'll have 50,000 more amendments until the country collapses altogether, and something else arises in its place. But unless you will keep doing this, civilizations will keep rising and falling and like this until the only thing that can actually last is a system in which people follow the codes of God, and these are eternal. So the ideal Vedic warrior, they follow these things, and you may argue, well, why? If they follow these things, why did their rule collapse? And actually, for all the other ages of past, it's even you could see it. While the so-called Europeans who now kind of rule society today, different forms like the Zionist Europeans and things like that, they rule all kinds of things today. They were like supposedly, according to the history, like hunter-gatherers when India had like a flourishing kingship, 10,000 years. The oldest. They've proven, modern historians, the oldest civilizations are coming out of advanced. The Indo, what is that? Yeah, the Aryan civilization, the Indo, they call it something. I don't know what it is, but these ancient societies. But actually the way that, just like the seasons, they have to go from spring to summer to fall. Now everything's starting to degrade and fall, and it's a pretty time, but it's also like a sad time. It's getting cold, and all the foliage is dying and things like that. And then there's winter, which is just kind of like a white hell, especially here in Syracuse. Prabhupada called London a white hell, by the way. So anyhow, just like that has to happen for new growth to come. So similarly, the ages of society, there has to be different ages, and what ultimately ends up happening is that there has to reach a Kali Yuga, which we're in, and it's like the winter of the Yuga cycles, and in this winter we kind of everything degrades, all society degrades and things, and that's what Maharaj Pariksha is noticing, because he's never seen such degradation before, so he's ready to challenge it. So, Ragyo hi paramo dharma Swadharma sthanupalanam. Oh, we did this already. No, that's okay. The supreme duty of the ruling kings is to give all protection to law-abiding persons and to chastise those. I did the translation. Okay. Supreme duty of the ruling king to give all protection to law-abiding persons and to chastise those who stray from the ordinances of the scriptures in ordinary times when there is no emergency. So in the scriptures, there is mention of apadharma, or occupational duty at times of extraordinary happenings. It is said that sometimes the great sage Vishwamitra had to live on the flesh of dogs in some extraordinary dangerous position. So that is not ideal, but in a life or death situation. There's been people who've been stranded at sea and with other people, and the weakest ones got eaten, and But in an emergency situation, I don't think the law can punish them so severely because of the situation. These things happen. So anyway, I don't recommend this. I think even that is like, totally don't do that. But in cases of emergency, one may be allowed to live on the flesh of animals of all description. But that does not mean that there should be regular slaughterhouses to feed the animal eaters, and that this system should be encouraged by the state. So animals can be eaten in an emergency situation, but never other way by the scriptures. But and nowadays these scriptures have practically been lost, and even the religious people, so-called religious people, they have no mercy for the animals and they eat them unnecessarily when they totally don't have to. Like totally don't need to. Like I've been vegetarian now for 10 years. I haven't gone to a doctor. My whole life I've practically never gone to the doctor. But totally healthy enough, no problem. Even able to create babies and things like that, no problem. But you don't need meat. But if you eat meat, it's only because you want to. And if you want to, there's there may be a lapse in the ethical understanding of that, hey, other living beings don't want to be tortured and murdered. And if you don't understand, hey, you know what? Like, most people understand that they don't want to torture and murder animals, like dogs especially. People don't. They hate seeing torture, and especially murder to dogs. But they don't mind if it's like a pig or a cow or another animal. Equally as, actually, cows are, and pigs are actually smarter than dogs. And cows are, by modern scientific standards, and cows are the most beneficial animal to human society. This is why this whole thing. But anyway, it's not an emergency circumstance. There's no reason for this Kali to be abusing the cows and the bull in the form of the demigods Dharma and Mother Earth. And so but it's all allegorical to what's in store for the age. So, no one should try to live on flesh in ordinary times simply for the sake of the palate. If anyone does so, the king or the executive head should punish him for gross enjoyment. Just like we punish other people, some people want to enjoy sex pleasure, and to do so, they'll rape other people, and the usually women. A man may rape a woman, and it's obvious that in society this should never be allowed because she doesn't want to. But what's not obvious is, I want to enjoy meat. So, but that animal doesn't want you to take its body parts and kill it and murder it and eat it. But people, they're too caught up in gross enjoyment, like the rapist, who's too caught up in whatever little sexual pleasure will come from raping someone, and he can't see what a horrible thing he's doing. Or maybe he can see, but he doesn't care. But that's actually the same for the meat eater, unfortunately. There are regular scriptural injunctions for different persons engaged in different occupational duties, and one who follows them is called swadharmastha, or faithful in one's prescribed duties. In the Bhagavad Gita 18:48, it is advised that one should not give up his occupational prescribed duties, even if they are not always flawless. Such swadharma might be violated in cases of emergency, if one is forced by circumstances, but they cannot be violated in ordinary times. The state executive head is to see that such swadharma is not changed by the follower, whatever it may be, and he should give all protection to the follower of swadharma, or one's duty. The violator is subject to punishment in terms of the Shastra, and the duty of the king to see that everyone strictly follows his occupational duty as prescribed in the scripture. So everyone has their swadharma. That might be, you guys might be doing it as an engineer, or Madhav, your father raised you with some type of knowledge of Krishna, so now it's fitting that when you got older that you were interested in being a servant of Krishna. And it's kind of like your swadharma. Even my life, my dad raised me religious, actually, and I fell away from that. But when things got really difficult in my life, and ultimately I had a near-death type of experience, and I realized for sure that there was another reality beyond what the mundane senses could see, then I also kind of took back that swadharma of my religious upbringing, and so on. And so probably also you as well, Parth. So anyhow, but the king punishes those who are not properly doing one's swadharma, meaning they do this already. If you do a certain duty in society, but let's say you evade your taxes, the government will come and punish you. And that's what they're supposed to do, actually. If you don't follow the Dharma as by the codes of Scripture, that's mostly coming in, when you don't benefit the government making money, or the government, if you speed on the road, the cops are always hiding in such places, like, gotcha, Not, if they were just kind of in open places, probably less people would be speeding, but they're not interested in just you to stop the speeding. They're interested in extracting money from you. So they're like road pirates. But anyhow, this is not proper ruling, actually, how the states are, predatory upon the citizens. But, if you do want to stop speeding because it's dangerous, which I understand that it's dangerous, there is, they should do that, because it's an abuse of one's dharma for you to not navigate yourself properly in society. So there's a way to navigate yourself, and this is all in the Dharma Shastras. So anyone who's not following the ancient codes of Scripture. Whether the law punishes them or not, the Lord will personally punish them. So you can get around the law. Like even here, I have some rules for being in the house. But if you're, sneaky and conniving, you can skirt around all the rules, like the Airbnbs sometimes do. They're like, no meat, no fish, no this in the house. Every once in a while, we'll find like a McDonald's packet upstairs in the Airbnb or something like that. Yeah, but you know what? You can trick any material being in this world, but you can never do something that's not seen by God. So God will punish you if He wants to. If you're not living dharmically. So let's hear from Dharma himself. Dharma vacha etadva pandaveyanam yuktam artabayang vachaha ye shanguna ganai krishno dotyado bhagavan krita Dharma vacha. The personality of religion said, Etat, all these, va, by you, Pandaveyanam, of those who are in the Pandava dynasty, Yuktam, just befitting, Arta, the sufferer, Abhayam, freedom from all fears, Vacha, speeches, Yeshang, those, Gunaganai, by the qualifications, Krishna, even Lord Krishna, Dotya Ado, the duty of a messenger, etc. Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. Krita, performed. The personality of religion said, these words just spoken by you befit a person of the Pandava dynasty. Captivated by the devotional qualities of the Pandavas, even Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead, performed duties as a messenger. This is very important because the Pandavas were incredibly dharmic. Yudhishthira was known, who was the leader of the Pandavas, as Dharmaraj. He actually was the son of the demigod Dharma. He's Dharma's son, actually, in the past time. And he had like a divine birth. But anyway, he is the king that's always following Dharma in all circumstances, even when it's very unpalatable. So, but what that does, if you practice Dharma religiously, then the Lord himself will come and want to serve you. It'll be so attractive to the Lord himself will want to come and be your servant, like the Pandavas. They were so dharmic, the Lord himself was attracted. So, the assurances and challenges made by Maharaj Parikshit are never exaggerations of his real power. The Maharaj said that even the denizens of heaven could not escape his stringent government if they were violators of religious principles. Oh, he was like farting or pooping or something. Oh, God, man, you stink. He was not falsely proud, for a devotee of the Lord is equally as powerful as the Lord, or sometimes more powerful by his grace. And any promise made by a devotee, though it may be ordinarily very difficult to fulfill, is properly executed by the grace of the Lord. Actually, you see this. One of the worst things it's understood, to do was to... I hope his mother hears him that he needs help. I know, she's coming, hopefully. She should be listening. So hopefully she opens that door soon and comes to you, to your aid. Do you want to try to be on the ground? Yeah, how's that? Okay, good. You see the devotee is actually sometimes more powerful to the Lord, because if you actually transgress a devotee's wishes, if you displease a devotee, then the Lord himself gets very angry and will make nothing go right. This happened also with Maharaj Parikshit, where Shamika Rishi, Guru Maharaj's name, Shamika Rishi was deep in meditation, and Maharaj Parikshit was in need of help, but due to his Shamika Rishi's obliviousness in meditation, Maharaj Parikshit took offense and garlanded him with a snake, and then it caused a Brahman's curse, Shamika Rishi's son, Shringi. And ultimately what happened was the Bhagavatam. But ultimately, you see the devotee of the Lord, if you don't please the devotees, what'll end up happening is they can't have well wishes for you in your current state. So let's just say you guys start to do something like abominable. Who knows? Parth starts hiring prostitutes or something like this, and I find out about it. So I'm like,
and I'll just be like, thinking like, I'm pleading with Parth, please, go back to bona fide living, go back to some good way of life. But Parth, I could just see that Parth just can't give up the prostitutes or whatever it is. And so next thing you know, I'll be thinking in my heart, in my mind, like, Krishna, please, you have to show him the right way. Like, if you have to punish him, go ahead. Things like this. So this is, and in this way, then that will encourage Krishna to act. Because if now the devotees are being displeased. So Maharaj Parikshit was a great devotee of the Lord, and he was never going to allow what he was seeing. And actually, oftentimes the will of the devotee, I've seen this in my life when I have been asked to do something by devotees, especially my spiritual seniors, and I didn't really want to do it, and I decided I would try not to do it instead of follow their advice. Krishna really punished me. And so then I get it. I'll do it. I'll do this thing. I'll be pleasing to the devotees. So in this way, they're more powerful than the Lord himself. So the Pandavas, by their unalloyed devotional service and full surrender unto the Lord, made it possible for the Lord to become a chariot driver, or sometimes their letter messenger. He just needed some toys. Yeah. Well, I thought we were reading Bhagavatam. I thought he'd be interested. So anyway, the mother's touch is always a bit better. Such duties executed by the Lord for his devotee are always very pleasing to the Lord, because the Lord wants to render service to his unalloyed devotee, whose life has no other engagement than to serve the Lord with full love and devotion. Maharaj Parikshit, grandson of Arjuna, the celebrated friendly servitor of the Lord, was a pure devotee of the Lord, like his grandfather, and therefore the Lord was always with him. Even from the time when he was helplessly lying in the womb of his mother and was attacked by the blazing Brahmastra weapon of Ashvatthama, a devotee is always under the protection of the Lord, and therefore the assurance of protection by Maharaj Parikshit could never be without meaning. The personality of religion accepted this fact and thus thanked the king for his being true to his exalted position. This is why devotees can sometimes do risky things, because they actually know that, like for the Lord's service, I can do anything. And they're not fearing. Maharaj Parikshit, he was a very strong, qualified leader. So it didn't matter who Kali was, to see Dharma be transgressed so filthily. Maharaj Parikshit was ready to punish him, and even saying, even if you're a demigod in heaven, I'll punish you. And he was trusting the Lord will back him up, and he would. We see this. I had a thought on this. Well, you could see this even in your life. Devotees sometimes, sometimes we go downtown and we're out there and we're talking to people on the street, and yeah, some of the characters are, shady characters and stuff. I've been a little worried. I turned the wrong corner one time, and there was a guy who was, I think he was asking what was in my fanny pack, and I was like, oh no, like I think he's inquiring. So, but luckily by Krishna's mercy, nothing happened. But yeah, you have to. But a devotee, for doing Krishna's service, he'll always trust that the Lord will protect him. There's actually these are limbs of surrender of the devotee. The Shadvidha Sharanagati, the 6 types of Sharanagati. Do you know what they are?
Accept that which is favorable.
Yes, Anukulyasya Sankalpe, accepting, having an intention to do that which is favorable. Pratikulyasya Varjanam, rejecting that which is not favorable. That's the main one, but the next one is Rakshasya Titi Vishwaso, which is this one. Always trusting that the Lord is one's protector. That the Lord, no matter what, He's never going to let you fall or degrade or, this. He's never going to leave you stranded. Like the Lord is always, this is the surrendered mood of the devotee. And then the main one is Goptritvi Varanamtata. Goptritve Varanamtata, which means that you've wholeheartedly accepted that the Lord is your maintainer and protector and everything. That like you're now the Lord's. That's not only will He protect you from danger, but He's maintaining everything.
That's the main limb of surrender. Everything else, that's the main body of surrender. Everything else is around that. That no matter what, the Lord, you're the Lord's. And, He's your maintainer, you're His servant. Whatever He says goes, and you trust that. Whatever He does is perfect. And then the last one is Atmanik Shepa. The second to last one. Atmanik Shepa means that one is surrendered. The soul is surrendered. Okay, whatever the Lord wants, I'll do that, only that thing. Whatever the Lord wants, I'll do only that thing. I give up my own false ego. I give up my own ambitions and desires. This is what Krishna wants for us. But the person who does that, the Lord will personally come and serve. Like you see, like Yudhishthir, he got caught up in the gambling match. He had no desire to gamble, but because his superior Dhritarashtra encouraged him to come and gamble, and it's a Kshatriya's duty when challenged to meet the challenge, even though it was rigged and it was meant to cheat him. He didn't want to do it, but he knew actually this was following Dharma. Even though gambling is against Dharma, but in those circumstances, gambling was the Dharma. So he accepted the Dharma, and he did it. And it was very unpleasing. It was a horrible, no one likes to see righteous people cheated of everything, which is what happened in that circumstance. But he did it because it was Dharma. But ultimately, their time in the forest, Krishna had a plan, their time in the forest was so much more valuable than if they were to stay in the kingdom. And they actually got the association of sadhus, great sages, and things like this. I was thinking, this is unrelated, but I don't know if you guys saw when we were doing the bhajan, Abhiram was sucking his toe. The way I was holding him, his foot was up near his mouth. He just started sucking his toe. But actually one of the sages Yudhishthira met in the forest was Markandeya Rishi. And Markandeya Rishi is said to be a sage from another age. And he actually lived through a universal destruction because he actually asked the Lord, he wanted to see the Lord's Maya. So the Lord said, okay. And then one day he performed a whole universal destruction without Markandeya. No one realized what was happening, and Markandeya got thrown into this crazy universal destruction turmoil. He's drowning in waters and surrounded by fires, and so many crazy things were happening. And he was struggling for existence. It's so hard. And then at one point in this ocean, of turbulent ocean of like hurricane waters, there was this island, and he somehow met on the island, and there was this divine little blue being sucking his toe. And that's what I was reminded of when I saw he was on a banyan leaf just sucking his toe. And that's when Markandeya Rishi was like, who are you? And then all of a sudden that being, I think he swallowed him. I think it's in the Bhagavatam, it's in the 12th canto, I'm forgetting how it went. But basically Markandeya Rishi, or he opened his mouth and he saw all of the universe, everything, and he himself was inside. And then he somehow returned to the exact place he was doing austerity before that. So Markandeya Rishi got a ton of wisdom from this experience. But it was interesting because I was seeing Abhiram suck his toe, and I was like, well, even the Lord will actually suck his toe, so like this. So I think we'll end here. It's 9:22. We started a little. What's that? The last limb. Yes, the last limb of Sharanagati is Karpanya, which is humility. And so in this humility, we realize, by doing all the other steps, we realized our insignificance and that we're completely surrendered to the Lord. And in that, naturally, you'll be humble, and you'll be humble to others. You won't, because you'll realize you're not doing anything, actually. The Lord is doing through you, and if you're wise, you'll only wish to do that which is pleasing to the Lord. You're surrendered to the Lord, that's where you're at. So naturally that will make you very humble, because it's not look at me, I'm some great person, look what I'm doing, like that arrogance, like the false ego, you'll have a manina, you'll be free of pride, and manadena, you'll offer naturally respect to others, because you're understanding, actually, no matter where they're at, you're all in the same boat. Even the blade of grass is also equally as cherished and nourished by the Lord as we are. And only by good fortune as of right now, do we have the chance to try to understand the Lord, whereas the blade of grass likely doesn't, or the dog doesn't, or even the you could say more less fortunate human being, like most human beings, friends, relatives, doesn't matter. They're not so interested in understanding the Lord. And simply because that's not what they desire. But somehow by good fortune you may have arisen some desire to understand the Lord more. And so in that desire, the Lord will very happily grant your desire. And it's the best thing to be granted. It's the greatest benediction to understand the Lord so that we can actually serve Him and love Him and exchange love with Him. But, you can't do it without surrender. So unless you do those things... Yes, do you do that just to build up to a toot? Anyhow, unless you surrender to the Lord, you'll be thoroughly overwhelmed by this material world, and you will be constantly in anxiety. But when you're surrendered to the Lord, you can, and in full trust, you can sleep peacefully. Actually, I was reading this yesterday. I'm reading something on surrender right now. And if you are totally surrendered to the Lord and you've given yourself up over to the Lord, then you can actually sleep peacefully. And you're like, you know what? Whatever the Lord does is perfect. But if you're caught up in the idea that you're the doer and everything it revolves around your actions in this world, then you're always going to be in anxiety, like, oh, I have to do this and I have to do this, and you can't sleep nicely. You can't, you're always in anxiety. You think I'm the doer and everything depends on what I do. I'm not realizing that actually what you do isn't so important. It's what the Lord is doing, actually. So anyway, that's fine. And we will take responsibility for the Lord. The Lord will empower us to do service, but it's not up to us. If the Lord allows us to do the thing, then that's good. And we should find out what the Lord wants and do that. So Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki, special guest to Abhiram. I think this will be a future plan for him because his mother needs more time in the morning to situate herself. So we'll just have to tolerate and probably be charmed by Abhiram joining us for the morning program. I think online it'll get a good hit. I think a lot of people will be pleased to see Abhiram. So anyhow, Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki, thanks for joining. Hare Krishna. And